Welcome to another edition of the Cow Report. We're coming to you live from the beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Memorial Under Construction Library. This is May, what is the date today, Fred? 16th?
Yes.
May 16th, 1994, and I want to welcome you to the program. It's a beautiful day out there, so we hope you take the time to watch. Right here at the beginning of the program, we're going to have about a 25-minute film of former city alderman Ray Nichols, who's just back from Russia. He's been over there for 2 years teaching, Fred, and he's giving a very outstanding and rousing speech on what's happened in Russia and what he sees happening in the United States. And so that will run for about 25 minutes, and then we'll be coming right back to take phone calls. So about, I guess it would be around 2:35, 2:40, we'll start taking phone calls till the end of the show. You can give your comments on Ray's speech and what you think of his statements. So right now we're going to go ahead and roll that video, and then we'll be back about 2:35. Well, actually, 2:20.
Now, Ray is much younger than Dr. Brill is. You know how I can tell? Because Ray's bio is only that long. And here's Dr. Brillis. Let me tell you. I can't believe it. You can only have a bio this long if you're as old as he is. Okay. But here's the bio on Ray Nichols, another good friend of mine. Ray, I've respected you over the years. Presently teaching at the State University of Belarus. Everybody knows where Belarus is, right? Where in the world is Belarus, Leo tells us? He teaches marketing in the free enterprise system. He's been there for the past 2 years and will be going back in August. Married 22 years. You don't look that old. He married at 6 years old. I know that's not true. Look at his hairline.
It's still coming in.
It's still naked, 14 years old, right? They both were with you in Belarus the last 2 years. I want you to tell the story about your son, about, what was the language of Belarus?
It's Russian and Belarus.
Oh, okay. Before going to Russia, Ray served 3 terms in the Eau Claire City Council. And for 2 of the 6 years, he was the vice president of the City Council. Also, he served on a special committee here. We all heard about Unaroyal when they closed down. But he served on that committee to help see what could be done to make sure that everything was done. Keep Unaroyal open and pick up the pieces afterwards. Well, anyway, he served on that plant committee. He represented the city of Eau Claire in Washington, D.C. relative to that particular subject. Also appointed by the governor to a 4-year term on the State Education Committee. He left all of that to go to Russia. Sounds exciting. And I'd like to have you come on up and share a little bit about your experiences there in Russia. And there's a relationship, folks, between what he's going to share and why we're here tonight. Okay, Ray?
Most of you I know, at least I have the faces. I may not know everybody's name, but it's so good to be home. I've only been home for 1 week, and I'm going back again to Belarus. If you don't know where Belarus is, it borders the country of Poland and Lithuania, Ukraine, and Russia. It is in the Soviet Union, one of the 15 former republics. It is the most conservative of the communist states. And it is opening to the ideas of the West, unfortunately, the ideas of the West that the West is starting to throw away. The West is starting to throw away what made it good, what made it powerful, in particular, America. And I want to thank Carl and I want to thank Don for inviting me here to share this with you. My heart is broken tonight. I tried to write out a speech. You know what? I can't do it because I got something in my heart that's more important than a speech. I did not come here to deliver a lecture. I came to talk to you and hopefully inspire you that you might save this great country of ours. Because we are in a political war that we have never seen before in the history of this nation. Harlan says family values. It goes very deep, folks. Alexander Solzhenitsyn was right when he said it's a spiritual battle. Now you can like it or dislike it, but it's the truth, and I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you the truth. I can risk like I'm some kind of radical. I can sound like I'm a radical, but I don't care if I sound like I'm a radical. I'm going to tell you the truth. Because it's about time somebody opened their mouth and stand up and say, enough is enough.
Amen.
I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of hearing of all the problems that are in America. Americans today are making up problems that are not even real. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Why am I speaking tonight? Because I care. I care because I'm American. I love my country. When I see that flag, it does something to me. I served in the armed forces. I'm proud of that flag. I was in Belarus when President Clinton came over, and there were American flags down the main street of Belarus, and I'll tell you what, I was proud of that flag. And I'll tell you another thing. The Soviet people are also proud of that flag, and they're looking to that flag as their salvation. Because they're sick and tired of eating the fruit of 73 years of socialism and atheism. Now, you may not read that in the newspapers, but I lived there for 2 years, and I know what I'm talking about. And I've seen the utter poverty and the utter despair and disgust on the people's faces. They walk around like zombies without hope, and they look to America, and they hold out to us as the salvation of this world. But they're looking to America that was gone by already, the way it used to be. And I care about our country, and you know what? I hope you care. I hope you care so much that you're going to do something. That you're just not going to sit here and say, wow, what a great thing I heard tonight. But you will be called to action. And you'll stand up and you'll start saying, I believe what I believe, and I am not ashamed of my belief. And don't let the noisy clamor of our opponents discourage us. You have as much right to speak about how you feel as anybody else has to speak about how they feel. Right. At least that's what the Constitution said when I was a child. And I don't think it's changed yet. And hopefully to God it will never change. It's a great document. And we need to live under it and continue to work under it because it's been a tremendous instrument for our freedoms. None of this is on my notes, but I'm sorry. I just have to talk to you from my heart. America has taken a wrong turn. America has forsaken the old path. And I said before that we are making up issues here. I come back and I read about college students worrying about diversity and all this kind of stuff. When there's real problems in the world, you want to see a real problem? There's a real problem. There's a victim of Chernobyl, a 6-year-old girl who died of radiation poisoning. While we're worrying about all kinds of different rights and arguing and things that are splitting the American public, we're dividing our nation by giving all these special interest groups their rights. What about just being an American where everybody has equal opportunity? I get back 1 week, and I suppose I should be locked up. Because from what I lived under for 2 years and then come back here and I see the crying, whining American who has it soft, who has it easy, worrying about their cushy jobs and worried about their positions, more than worried about continuing their nation or the future of their children. We don't want to be hurt. We don't want to be called a radical. We don't want to be called an idiot or foolish. And so we're keeping silent while special interest groups are taking over our country, and they are minority group folks And we sit by idle because we don't want to get involved, because somebody might laugh at us. Well, laugh at me then, but I'm going to stand for what I believe. I opened the newspaper. I shouldn't have done that. You talk about a depressing feeling. I'm automatically. I open a newspaper. I read on this. 20-year-old man killed such and such. 19-year-old boy killed such and such. A teenager kills former employer. And then down here, I read the most stupid headline I've ever read in my life. 300 snails die in a fire. 300 snails die in a fire. Now that's noteworthy, I'll tell you that. And the story went on and told how they perished in this fire. America's gone crazy. As the Russians would say, that's the Doma, which means nobody's home. I'll tell you what, we're making up issues, and we're creating crowds, and they are taking us from the real issues. The real issues of people that are not politicians, but are statesmen. People who care about their country, not care about counting their votes.
That's right.
People that care about traditional values, pro-family, pro-God, pro-nation. What's wrong with being pro-God? It built this country.
That's right. Right.
What's wrong with that? I am not ashamed of that.
Good.
And I'm sick and tired of being portrayed like we're portrayed in television and in the movies as being some kind of crazy person because we believe in God.
Good.
I want to tell you about my work in Belarus. I had to give up my illustrious career on the city council. That made $125 a month to go to Belarus. And I was asked to go to Belarus by School of Tomorrow, which is based out of Dallas, Texas. Why? Because the Ministry of Education asked if we could put Bible-based schools into their school system, because for 73 years of atheism, they are in total ruination of people without moral character, without direction, a corrupt system that eats itself like a cancer. And now they're begging for a bearing on which they can set their compass to and head on to a new course. Listen, folks, the Soviet Union and America are like two ships passing in the night. They're going to what we had, and we're going to what they had. You can believe it or not, I lived there. You can't argue with a man with an experience. So I went and I worked with the Minister of Education for the country of Belarus, a country of 11 million people. I worked with the Minister of Culture and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I worked with university deans and professors. I taught at 4 universities: Belarus State University, Belarus Pedagogical University, the Institute of Foreign Language, and the University of Culture. And every one of them asked me to teach and asked me to bring Christian principles into my teaching. I taught marketing in the free enterprise system. And I'll just say this anyway. I taught that, and I talked about biblical principles of business and of conduct and of treating people as you would like to be treated yourself. You know, the golden rule? 2 of my students came and said, "We want to know God." And I ended up giving them Bible studies. That wasn't even my intention. I also opened schools for Belarusian children, the School of Tomorrow. It's a Bible-based curriculum. It is non-denominational. They are not becoming denominationalized. We are not promoting a certain religion. We're promoting biblical moral values based on the Bible, like love your neighbor, be honest, have integrity. Is that so bad for America? How about if our politicians had integrity? How about if they were honest? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? It's not a dirty word. It's a wonderful way of living. To be honest. And to care about your family, and care about your community, and care about your country. More than your own personal pleasures or gain. We opened 3 schools, one in Minsk, one in Lida, and one in Grodno. We've been asked to open 6 more schools next year. I've also been asked to go into Poland and Lithuania to do the same thing. There are 146 of these schools throughout the Soviet Union. See, Gorbachev, in one of the last years that he was in office, he made a decree that every school must teach moral values to their children. And that's not America, that's the Soviet Union. You know why? Because they realized what made them bankrupt. Men without any moral character. And I'll tell you what, America needs men and women with moral character. That when they get in office, they're going to be honest and they're going to do what they said they were going to do. Men of character and integrity. Because if you don't have it in your personal life, you're not going to promote it in your public life.
Right.
You're going to waffle and fold under any issue that may seem tough because you're going to count votes instead of having a conviction.
That's right.
When I was on city council, I stood for the obscenity ordinance. Why? Because it was popular? No, because it was right. And it was a conviction. And I don't care if everybody voted against me, I still stand on it because I believe in it.
Good.
And whether you agree or disagree doesn't matter to me. The thing that matters is I had a conviction and I stuck to it. And we need men like that in office, and I believe Don Brill is a man like that. When I was there, I was involved in a lot of conferences. I worked on a national level with the national educators. There was an all-European conference. It was for the Western European countries. There were representatives from Denmark, Germany, Ireland, France, England, Portugal, and Belarus, and Russia. And it was called Next Step New Life. And what it was about was educational reform in the former Soviet republics. I spoke that morning after 4 gentlemen spoke before me. One was a professor from Oxford University. One was the director of the international schools from London, England. And 2 other people were from, I think one was from Germany and one was from Denmark. Every single one of those speakers said that we must put the Bible back into the classroom because our systems have failed and we must have moral character in our children. Now listen, they weren't Bible thumpers. They were professional educators that have seen the results of what nations have done when they took moral character out of the curriculum. You can spend money and you can spend money all you want, but you'll never get to the root of the problem until you can raise somebody that can control themselves. And then you won't need the laws that we're writing today.
That's right.
You won't need them because you'll have personal restraint.
Good.
There's moral principles that are coming to play here that laws will not correct. And all they'll do is they'll entangle the good citizen and tie them up in those bad laws. And that's a fact. When I met with college professors, I met often. I taught weekly in the universities. And lots of times I would teach the teachers how to instill moral values into the classroom. That's what they wanted to know. And I would teach them. And one time I was speaking to a group of professors, and this professor said to me, well, actually, I asked him a question. I said, how is it that all you people, I've heard these people that hated all this communism and atheism and all this, I said, how is it that they could take over and you just sat idly by? They said, Ray, you don't understand something. The way they stopped us from speaking out, they said they used the term on us. And the term was, you can say anything you want, but you cannot be politically incorrect. Have you ever heard that term? Now, I didn't make this up. This isn't a hamburger and pickle dream. This is a reality, folks. This is what I was told personally. And I said, wait a minute. That's what they're starting to say in America. That's politically incorrect. He said, that did not start in America. That came from the Soviet Union. Now, that's just a fancy way of saying you're censored. It's politically incorrect. Says who? Who determines that? I thought that the free marketplace of ideas was the best way to govern, so that we're not blindsided by being, with blinders on. What happened to that in America? I was raised on it. I'm only 45 years old, but I remember in my classrooms being taught that democracy was the rule of the majority with respect towards the minority. Now it's the opposite. Now it's the rule of the minority with disrespect towards the majority. It's no longer let them live and we'll live, because we're being slowly censored by these politically correct terminologies that are just tying us up in knots. In less than 2 weeks, I'm going to be bringing 3 mayors and 1 educational authority from Belarus to visit Eau Claire. Now, I had requests from Missouri and Texas and other states that wanted these mayors. But you know what? I'm from Eau Claire. I love Eau Claire. I said, wait a minute, I know these mayors. I spoke with them. They're coming to Eau Claire. I want them to know Eau Claire. We're having the mayor from Pinsk. We're having the mayor from Lida. We're having the mayor from Sluice and an educational authority from Lida visit our city. And they are going to institute Bible-based schools in their cities next year. In Sluice, it's going to be a public school. I don't know why that scares people. I remember when I was in school, we said the pledge to the flag. My teacher read the Bible every morning, and we had a prayer. I remember when President Kennedy was shot, I was in junior high school, there was an assembly called, and we all went to the assembly, and we had a prayer meeting in the public school system. And everybody prayed according to their conscience. What is so wrong with that? And there was a pride, and there was a feeling of uniting together because of it. Our nation survived until 1963 with that idea. And then somebody got the idea that it doesn't belong in the school system, and we swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. And we were ripped off by the Supreme Court because there was no laws made before that, no precedent before that would make that unconstitutional. Check it out. The mayor of Pinsk, when I met with him, he's a little bit younger than me. He looked at me and he said, Ray, don't blame me for being raised in a perverse nation that persecuted the Christian, that kicked moral principles out of its system. I had nothing to do with it. I just happened to be born here. The mayor of Sluice said to me, Ray, we must have a way to incorporate the Bible into our classrooms. Our children have no direction. They have nothing to anchor to. And we have seen the results. A destroyed people. The leader in the Christian Democratic Party said to me, communism and atheism has made our souls black. Well, with your help, we can make the souls of our children white again. I was asked many times by many people in Belarus, why is it that America, that is so great a nation, why are we leaving the values that made us great and going to the values that they themselves are giving up? Government control, over and over and over, that's all I hear about. The government is not concerned for your welfare. The government is concerned about controlling your activities. And the more you take from the government, the more you become the slave to it. Don't allow the individualism to leave our nation. And we become statists, property of the state, ruled by the state. Listen, it's impossible for any government to totally care for its people. It's impossible. it'll never happen. And there can be no guarantee of equal results. There can only be guarantee of equal opportunity. And laws that are to the contrary are bad laws. Everybody in this country ought to have equal opportunity, but we can never guarantee equal success. If everybody in this room was given an automobile, the same model, the same make, the same year, and 1 year from now we came back and met again, we would all have different kinds of automobiles. Because somebody would take care of their automobile and another person would neglect it. And it's the same way in our country today. We better stop trying to produce equal results, but we better guarantee equal opportunities. Because all you're going to get is more and more government control, and you are going to become more and more the property of the state. You know what's surprising? In that European Council on Education, I found that all of Europe is heading away from their socialistic ideas and opening to democracy. They're starting to see that they have failed when they've taken these moral principles out of society. I'm here tonight because I care. And I'm here tonight because I'm concerned. When I sit over in Belarus and I hear the news from America, it scares me half to death. America is drifting. We're falling apart. And we better start doing something. If you care about this country, if you care about your children, you care about the future, it's time that you do something. Quit looking for somebody else to do something. Now, Don's running. He's the one that's putting it all on the line. The least you can do is stand with this man and support this man and not just talk. A slap on the back saying, I'm with you, does nothing. Pull a lever and vote. That's what does it. And then support them with your work and with your finances. Listen, it's worth it. You'll be glad you did. It's a small investment for your future. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, they were back live, Fred. Now, that was really a fantastic speech from former city representative Ray Nichols. I think he was on the city council 2 or 3 terms.
And he was the vice president of it before he left.
He just got back. He's back actually visiting. He kind of makes Russia his home now and teaches during the school year over there. So he's just back here for a brief period, and then he's going back to Russia. Then he's going to bring back some mayors from Russian cities to kind of study America. And so there's a possibility we'll get some of the mayors in here in the studio in a few weeks, Fred.
Yes.
He said if he had time, he'd let them come in here and talk to us. Okay, so we'll be taking calls if anyone wants to comment on Ray's speech or any other business or information. And of course, Fred, the program is brought to you by the Flavin Company.
No, they got Fred's Best Pop there. It's outselling Flavin.
That's what I hear.
We actually sold 2 bottles.
Well, you know,
That's
Fred,
more than you've sold all year.
I've talked to the sponsors of the program, the Flavin Company, and they've given me the authority to make you an offer to buy you out.
Yeah. I don't think we want to sell, since this is going to be a great money-making opportunity.
I'm authorized by the company to give you $19.95 for this right now for the royalties.
Well,
secret ingredients
you
and
make
everything.
$19.95, then we'll think about it.
Nope, I'm not authorized to go past $19.95.
Oh, that's all right. No, we're not going to sell there.
And that's my final offer. We were willing to buy you out right there. Fred's the best pop.
Right.
And of course, you know, we have to change the label on the bottle side if we buy you out.
That's sure. I know, but you're not going to. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Just thought we'd make the offer from the fine folks at Flavin.
Yes.
All right, now, you know, we have our wonderful engineering staff, Chris and Cliff Economaki, Siamese
Yes.
twins of engineering,
Yes.
keeping the ball rolling around here, Fred.
Yes.
And it's I mean, it's very complicated.
I know, that's
There's a lot of complications to this.
right.
But anyway, we'll be taking calls 839-5067.
Yes.
If you'd like to comment on the program, or if you're even watching today, it's so beautiful outside, Fred. Maybe people have strapped a television onto their chest so they can walk around and watch the show while they're doing their daily activities. At least we hope so. Okay, Fred, on this date, which is May 16th, 1994, we will tell you that in 1960, Fred, what happened on this date.
Today?
On this
In
date,
1960?
34 years ago.
Was it that Jack Kennedy came to Eau Claire?
No, it was the downing of American U-2 spy plane over the former Soviet Union prompts Soviet Premier Khrushchev to cancel the Paris Summit Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, the Russians got mad at that because we were spying on them.
Yes.
Okay, and also on this date, in 1866, Congress authorizes the Treasury Department to manufacture and place into circulation the nation's first 5-cent piece, the nickel.
Yes.
1866, so that's what, about 100, close to 128 years.
Right.
The nickel's been around. Now, did it start out as an Indian head nickel?
Maybe.
Or buffalo head nickel? Buffalo nickel?
One or the other.
Okay, Fred. Of local importance, Fred, and you'll be seeing it in the local Leader Telegram Day. I'm sure people have heard it on the radio news. State Representative David Plombaum was placed on 1 year's of probation this morning after pleading no contest in Eau Claire County Circuit Court to a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct.
Yes.
And that's for people that are represented by him in the northern part of the viewing area.
Mm-hmm.
And several charges were dropped, Fred, and he also got 25 hours of community service and paid a $50 fine. But by pleading no contest, you're basically saying, maybe I did it, maybe I didn't.
Well, no, if you were guilty, or you wouldn't be pleading that.
Well, yeah, you're basically still saying you're guilty without saying you're guilty. Okay, we got a call here on line 1, and we're going to test out this mic. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Chuck,
Yeah.
I wish that one thing, I thought it was an outstanding report. I'm very happy for you, but I wish you'd tell Reinders and Lunderville and Brill that they're on the wrong horse, and they should certainly give Ray a chance.
Ray,
Thanks for listening.
you think Ray's a pretty good speaker, huh?
Yeah, excellent. Just outstanding.
Well, you know, I kind of think the same way. That guy could really stir up some people out there on the campaign trail.
Yes, after Brill last week, this is certainly it's a wonderful. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, Ray's a good speaker, and he's got a message because he's been over there and seen what 75 years of that system has done to that country.
Yeah, it's outstanding. I'm really appreciative of what you brought to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for calling in.
But
Well, there's a very informed person, Fred. You probably know who it is.
Yes.
But that's neither here nor there. Okay, going back to the Plombaum incident, there were several charges. Most of them were dropped, Fred, and there was a news conference after the court appearance this morning, and basically, I think Mr. Plombaum's still in the race.
Yeah, well, I expected that all along.
But as the Democrats themselves say, he's damaged goods.
Mm-hmm.
So they're either going to probably run. There still could be a Democratic primary in that race up there.
You weren't thinking of running against him, are you?
Well, I'm not in the Democratic Party. I wonder what the procedures are for joining the Democratic Party.
Well,
You used to be a Democrat. How do you get into that?
it isn't hard there.
Just about everybody
Just
used
pay
to.
your money and sign the application, and you're in.
Just about everybody used to be Democrats, Fred. I don't know how many are still left. Okay.
Well, you know the funny thing about it, I never was in the Democratic Party, although most of my friends were Democrats.
Yeah. Well, there really has.
We come from a working class neighborhood, and there weren't too many Republicans there. There's only a few people that I knew were Republicans.
The Democrats seem to be more of a conglomeration of special interest groups. They just
Well,
get together at election
a lot
time.
of the working class people who had to work for a living, who did labor, worked in factories and all kinds of things. They were the backbone of the Democratic Party.
That was back in the 50s and 60s.
Well, it was back
The union movement.
back in, yeah, that's well, back in the 30s too.
Yeah. What happened?
Well, a number of them left the party. They became dissatisfied with what the party was doing.
Okay, Fred, on another note, today, Stephen Breyer is a Supreme Court nominee.
Yes,
Well, we looked it up in our little book,
yes.
and he just happens to belong to the Council on Foreign Relations. So that tentacle now has reached into the Supreme Court because it looks like he's a shoo-in for nomination and being the next Supreme Court justice.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got the CFR in the Supreme Court. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, why should you be concerned about the CFR?
Well, it's part of this New World Order, one world socialist government stuff.
Right, that's where years ago it was set up to create the United Nations, and before that the League of Nations.
So now it kind of tells us why even Republicans and Democrats both are liking this guy, because CFR is in both parties. Like our friend Newt Gingrich he's a CFR.
Mm-hmm.
Claims to be a staunch conservative, but he's an internationalist too.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to throw millions and billions of dollars down rat holes all over the world, but he can't even take care of North Atlanta. That's where he's from, just north of Atlanta. They got some major problems right in Atlanta, Georgia. They need to be worrying about.
Yes.
But when it comes to throwing money overseas, boy, Newt's right there at the head of the line.
Well, this is something that we've got to stop doing, because we've got to take care of our own problems here, and the world can take care of its problems.
Well, Fred, it's the American Dream Index that I coined that phrase, and our American Dream Index is low. And people like Newt and them got to quit throwing money all over the world and start throwing some of it right here into our inner cities, our ghettos, and get this country back on its feet.
Well, throwing money into anything doesn't help. What we have to do is restore the pride, the independence of the people, instead of making them dependent upon the federal government. Help them to become independent.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do it by giving them money, because we know the welfare program in this country is unsuccessful, because people stay on it for years and years and years. They're not going to go to work when they can get it for nothing. I've talked to people in McDonald's, people with no skill, who wouldn't go to work unless they were going to get $10 an hour.
You know, McDonald's pays about minimum wage, Fred. So
I know, but I talked to them in the restaurant, and some of them told me they wouldn't go to work unless they got $10 an hour. They were sitting there drinking coffee.
Well, that's why it's good to have the safety net, because anybody can have problems and fall out of a job, lose their job, and be on the streets.
I agree with you, but they shouldn't stay on it year after year after year after year.
There should be a program. Once you're plugged into it from that day forward, there's a program where you can see light at the end of the tunnel. Education, jobs, even if they have to make jobs. I'd rather see somebody working, picking up aluminum cans along the highway than just sitting at home drawing welfare.
I agree with you. And I talked to a man who was a town supervisor up in Chippewa County. This would be
you know what work does, Fred?
15 years ago.
Work creates pride and a good,
right.
Good self-image.
And do you know what happened? He had referred to him by the Department of Social Service up in Chippewa, several individuals who applied for welfare. Told them to come to work Monday. They came. They had to cut brush, saw wood, and clear the highways. So what did they do? The next day he only had 2 of them there. And the following day he didn't have anybody. Then he went out to find out why they didn't come. They went out and got themselves jobs for more than they were going to get from the welfare department.
Well, if you train somebody in those areas too, you just don't want to send somebody out there with a chainsaw so they cut their own leg off.
Well,
you have to have supervised training.
Right. He was there to see that they had the training that was necessary.
But there's plenty of
They were cutting brush, and they were cutting that with...
Fred, there's thousands and thousands of miles of lakeshore right here in Wisconsin that need to be cleaned up on a regular basis. Tires and brush and cans and bottles and plastic.
Right.
the things that those animals eat and choke on and die of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's plenty of things to do in this state, and it's work. I guess they call it workfare, but they sure are going at a snail's pace to get it in place. Okay, Fred, since you don't have anything to talk about, we're going to tell you that
What do you mean I don't have? What? Go ahead. I got lots to talk about.
in 1875, May 17th, the first Kentucky Derby ran at Churchill Downs, and the winner was John Bertrand Aristide. No, actually, the horse's name was Aristides,
Yeah.
and he was the first winner. 1875, Fred, almost 119 years ago. It's amazing. Okay, what do you got there? Nice and
Well, I see from the Washington Times, and this goes back to January.
Incidentally, this is Fred, Mr. Wright Stafford.
Oh. And this is January 6, 94, where Justice defies Clinton in porn case. Court filing calls win for pedophiles, and whereas Janet Reno appealed a conviction of a pornographer, a child pornographer, and the Senate voted 100-0 in opposition to the relaxation of the child pornography laws.
They didn't want to get on the wrong side of that issue, did they?
Well, no, they shouldn't. Nobody should want to be on that side.
Well, that's amazing.
Incidentally, I got this from my dentist, and of course this goes back to January.
Yeah?
And he thought so much about it, he had this reprinted and gave me a copy, and this is from Dr. James Dobson, and it's talking about what the president has been doing since he took over as president.
Okay, he took office, I think, January 20th, didn't he?
Yeah.
1993.
The first things he
Okay,
did
that's what
listed there.
I'm going to read them here. First 5 things he did under executive orders, which makes you wonder, where was Bush at when it came for executive orders? Here, Clinton, 3 days into his administration, or less, issues executive orders.
Right.
Now, Bush could have issued executive orders right and left.
Well, he did issue some.
Okay, here's the 5 executive orders he issued. Lift the ban on homosexuals in the military. Lift the ban on fetal tissue research. Lift the ban on abortion counseling in federally funded clinics. Begin the process of approving the importation of the abortion-inducing medication RU-486, and provide funds for the first time for abortions in military hospitals overseas.
Incidentally, none of the doctors in the military overseas are willing to do an abortion.
Well, we got a call here, Fred, but on that RU-486,
Yeah,
it's in the country now and it's being
I know.
tested.
I know.
And it's going to be, like
The
I've been
FDA
saying,
approved of its testing.
like I've been saying for almost 2 years, it's going to be a moot point to stand in front of an abortion clinic, because each bathroom is going to be an abortion clinic. Each person's private bathroom. Go ahead. Whoa. Whoa. I guess they chickened out on us, Fred. We have that problem here on the cow report. Chickens and cows are on the farm here. So we have to handle things as we can. All right, Fred. So that was the first 5 executive orders, most of them dealing with abortion. And you know, it's ironic that the president was staunchly pro-life up till about 1987. And he stuck his finger up in the air and saw the political winds of change, and all of a sudden became pro-abortion. And Fred, on top of that ironicity
Yes,
is the fact that now Republicans are jumping to that
it's true.
in small numbers, but a lot of Republicans now see that they can get elected by claiming to be pro-choice.
Well, they're going to find out, some of those, that they're going to be retired. After all, we have one party that's anti-life, pro-death choice. That's the Democratic Party. They're also anti-family, supporting homosexuality and pornography and so forth. We don't need 2 parties doing that. Might as well merge the 2 of them and let's have another party if that's what's going to go on. And here's what Pat Buchanan on the National Empowerment Television February 3rd said. There's no doubt there are a lot of Republican conservatives, Barry Goldwater being one, John Tower was another, who are quite pro-choice. They say this is a divisive moral issue and it shouldn't be raised in the political realm. Well, I'm sorry. The most divisive issue in the political realm was slavery. It was a moral as well as a political issue. So I'm a traditionalist on this. If my party is going to be a pro-life party, or I'm not going to be part of it. So the Republicans have to face up to that. They're going to lose what elected Reagan and Bush for one term. Reagan for two and Bush for one.
We have a videotape of Pat Buchanan interviewing Howard Phillips, and it tells about how Howard explains why the Republican Party is caving in on a lot of these issues. And I'll tell you, Pat is skirting right on the edge of leaving the party. He keeps rattling the saber and making these charges that he's going to pull out if the Republican Party doesn't do such and such. But the Republican Party is not going to change, Fred, because the rank and file control, not the people at the bottom, but the rank and file at the top, is basically pro-homosexual, pro-abortion, internationalist types, and yuppies, and people of that nature. And they're not going to let control of that party go. That's where they control it, Fred. They control it at the top in those paid positions, not down in the bottom where you're doing lip drops and going door to door knocking. You're the ant, the worker. The queen bees are at the top in Madison and in Washington.
Talking about that, and this is from the American Cause publication, the New York Times on the March 23rd reported that a survey conducted by the Republican National Committee purports to show that the GOP split on abortion, with 48% pro-life, 43% favoring abortion rights. RNC Chairman Harley Barber, as quoted in the Times story, quote, said, "I did not find the number surprising," said Barber, who said that he was personally opposed to abortion, but it would not be a threshold issue for the party.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't stand up for God in this country, what have we got? Nothing. You're either with him or for him. And God doesn't approve of killing innocent, unborn babies.
Well, I'll tell you what's going on, Fred. And I was just trying to get to that a minute ago. In the Republican Party, the Christians, born-again Christians, the conservatives, they are at the bottom. They're the worker ants. They're doing the dirty work. They're in there getting their fingernails dirty. They're making the phone calls. They're doing the lit drops. They're knocking on doors. They're asking people to vote for a certain candidate. And then you got the people at the top who are just laughing. You know what they want? You know what they say about the Christians? Here's what they say. So-called religious right is largely poor, uneducated, and easy to command. That's what they think about us up the top in the echelons.
Who said that?
This is a Washington Post front page story by Michael Weisskopf. Referred to members of the so-called religious right as largely poor, uneducated, and easy to command. That's exactly what the Republican Party has done. They've easily commanded us to do the dirty work.
Well, they haven't easily commanded me to do it. I do it because I got it in my heart to do what is right. Not what is wrong, but what is right.
So you find out you're working for 10 years for somebody that's a homosexual or pro-abortion.
Oh, I'm not working for any person that's pro-homosexual or pro-abortion. I know we have a congressman that probably is a homosexual, but the fact that he's gone out and he's acting as a spokesman for the homosexuals, he's not going to get my support. It means if I have to vote for a Democrat, I'm not going to do it. I want somebody who is not pro-homosexual in there, because he doesn't represent me. I'm not a homosexual. He's representing the homosexuals. He's representing maybe 2% of the people in this country.
That's what I'm saying, though, but we've been duped into working for those types of people, not just Gunderson.
I know.
Been across the board, Fred.
Well, I'm not working for them. I'll work for the people who are not. If I have any inkling that they are other than that, I'm not going to help them. I'm not going to vote for them.
As long as you stay at the bottom and you don't rattle your saber and you don't try and move up through the organization into the paid positions in the party, you're okay, Fred.
I'm not going to move up anywhere.
But for younger people, younger conservatives and Christians that want to move up, they find the door slammed in their face real quick.
Do you know something else I just heard and read in the paper today? And I just got it today, that Dan Quayle's book is out, and he may switch to the pro-choice side.
Huh.
He's thinking about it.
Well, everyone's looking at a way to get elected, Fred. And
Yeah.
like Ray Nichols said in there, people now are more worried about the vote than they're worried about...
Well, I'd be more
conscience and-
concerned about coming before God and facing God. He's going to ask me when I get there, what did you do for me? And if I haven't been doing the things that he wants done, I may wind up in a very warm place.
Yeah. You're so true, Fred. That's why we call you Fred Mr. Wright Stafford. You're so true. All right, Fred. We've got plenty of time here. On this date, in 1792, Fred, the New York Stock Exchange is formed when 24 New York brokers meet under a buttonwood tree on the present site of 68 Wall Street. So for 202 years, Fred, they've been meeting in the site where that button tree was. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
They've been cutting some big deals there ever since. 202 years that thing's been going on. That's got to be probably the longest running stock exchange in the world. All right, Fred, now that I got you worked up about these Republicans out there that are selling out in droves, now what's going to happen down at the bottom with these worker ants, Fred?
Well, you're going to
Are we
find
going to
a-
educate them to show them that they're getting sold out at the top, or are we going to ask them to continue to cast aside their religious beliefs and vote for the best Republican?
No, I think we have to vote for what is right.
Well,
And we can't vote for what is right. You can work for those who are pro-life, pro-family, pro-decency, and that's the foundation that made this country what it is today. We are a religious country. At one time, in most of the states in our country, you had to be a Christian to run for office. In other words, a active Christian, not one that goes to church and then for the rest of the week he's out breaking the laws or sinning, etc.
Well, we're all sinners saved by grace, Fred.
No, that's right. But there's a line that has to be drawn.
I think there ought to be a line drawn in the sand and Christians start saying we want paid positions when we help people get elected. Instead of getting relegated back to the trash heap after the election's over and told to get lost until the next election.
Mm-hmm.
I know personally people that have put people in their offices, Fred, that claim to be pro-life and then they're surrounded by abortionists.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we work our tails off for people like that?
I don't know.
I don't either. Okay, what have you got there? Something on a lighter note, Fred.
All right. What is the most important thing conservatives on the Hill can do this year? And again, this is Buchanan, and he's interviewing Dick Armey, the chairman of the House Republican Conference. We have to stop the president's health care plan. The worst thing that could happen is health care is the president's plan, but the next worst thing is nothing to be done. We have to find a plan with good pro-market reforms that respond to the complaints about the health care that Clinton used to win his presidency. And you know, when I look at this, if we get the health care by the federal government, I don't know of anything that the federal government does good or well. And I hate to turn over 14% of the economy to them, which is approximately what we spend for health care. That'd be a disaster. That'd mean a rationing of health care, an increase in price because we're putting a bureaucracy on top of what we have down in Washington. We don't need another bureaucracy. We need to get rid of half of what we get down there. We could probably do with 1/10 of what we have down there. Right?
That's right. Okay, Fred. National Endowment for the Arts. You've heard of them?
Right.
Some people have made a living just about going after them. Some people make a living by getting their funds. Other people are making a living by going after them and
Yeah.
pointing out their indiscretions. Well, anyway, recently, as reported in the Minneapolis Star Tribune on 3/24/94 and the Washington Post 3/31/94, the NEA helped fund a performance in which an HIV-positive artist, in quotes, Ron Athey of Los Angeles, sliced into the flesh of another man, mopped up his blood with towels, and sent them winging above the audience on revolving clotheslines. Some in the audience complained of potential exposure to the killer virus by dripping blood. The event was held March 5th, but wasn't reported in the Star Tribune until March 24th. And the performance was presented by the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis in conjunction with the 5th annual Minneapolis-St. Paul Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Film Festival.
You know, how can you call that art?
It was a bloody mess.
That is crazy. That's what it is. That's insanity.
Uh-huh. Well, it was held at the St. Patrick's Cabaret, which seats about 100 people, and was sold out for the event. But that's amazing, Fred, that would take place, especially in the era of AIDS that we're in.
Yeah.
And this guy the guy that did the slicing was HIV positive, but we don't know that the
There's another guy
other person was.
There were 2 female assistants wove acupuncture needles into the scalp of Mr. Athley's shaved head, helped as he pierced his arm with 30 hypodermic needles, and permitted him to pierce their cheeks with slender steel spikes. That's supposed to be art?
Huh.
You know, this country is morally and politically sick.
Well, they call it body piercing, Fred. It's a new underground cult that's going on. Body piercing, earrings anywhere you can get one in through skin in your body is considered cool now.
Yeah, it talks about that here too, and that's just what you read.
As a matter of fact, there was some exhibition of body piercing down on Water Street a few days ago. It's amazing what people will do to get attention.
Mm.
But here on this show, Fred, we try to be conservative, to the point, and non-controversial, Fred. And it's the only way that you can get ratings. You can't do it by going out there and doing body piercing and stuff. Either that, or we're going to have a body piercer come on the show and give you one of them cheek piercings. We'll get one of them great big brass rings, and we'll put it in your cheek, Fred.
I don't want any body piercing or anything.
And then we can run a big brass chain from there, and Betty can lead you around on that leash. How would that be?
Sounds great.
I mean, you can shave your head too. So you can
I'm
be
not
in.
going to shave my head.
Okay.
Bad enough I got to shave my face.
All right. Yeah, I know. Okay, Fred. What do you got there? You can't be reading the newspaper. We're on the air.
Well, 32-count conviction costs abortionist 1 year off. Here's an abortionist, and his name is Dr. Tommy Tucker. Performs 8,000 abortions a year, and this is from Jackson, Mississippi. Was convicted of 32 of 34 counts brought against him by the State Medical Board after a 2-day hearing here, April 21st and 22nd.
Huh.
And he got suspended for a year.
Well, that's amazing, Fred. Well, as usual, Fred, we're out of time. Time really flies when you're having fun here on the Cow Report. And so we want to just take this time to thank the viewers for calling in, and thank Donna for handling the phones in the other room, and Roy for being our engineer, and Chris and Cliff Economaki, and all the staff at Public Access. And we'll see you again right here on the Cow Report next Monday evening at 9 p.m., Fred.
Yes.
So we'll see you. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And don't forget to get your Flavin' Pop at all garage sales and funeral homes everywhere.
Drink Fred's Pop. It's better. It's nutritionally sound, not slop.
Thank you. Good evening. Good day.